You will not believe what I just discovered that most people are not talking about at all. Did Nolan Wells have a large bruise on the back of his neck? That question has spread rapidly across social media, but the evidence is more nuanced than many online posts suggest. The independent autopsy documented a large area of red discoloration in the deep tissue at the back of Nolan's head and the posterior neck, about around here. The pathologist did not diagnose it as a bruise, did not conclude Nolan had been struck, and did not determine the discoloration resulted from decomposition. This remains an active investigation. No one has been charged, even though with that new phone call Warren made this out, the son of the judge should be evidence that those kids knew Nolan was dead. And throughout this episode, we will distinguish confirmed medical findings, witness accounts, and allegations. Please remember to like, follow, share, and comment below. For more information about that audio file or the phone call, please visit Janetta Bradley on Facebook. Welcome to Money and Politics Simplified. I'm Esco Latimer. As this investigation continues, one of the most debated pieces of medical evidence is the area of discoloration found during Nolan Wells' independent autopsy. Was it a bruise? No. Was it decomposition? Was it evidence of trauma? Or is it something investigators simply cannot determine as of yet? Today, we're going to look exactly at what the independent autopsy says and, just as importantly, what it does not say. Then we're going to, as always, simplify it for you. The independent examination was performed by forensic pathologist Dr. Roger Mitchell after Mississippi had already completed its initial state autopsy. During a layered examination of the tissue at the back of the neck of Nolan's head, and Dr. Mitchell documented an approximately 12 by 8-inch area of red discoloration. The report described the location in relation to the occipital bone, the bone that forms the back and the lower portion of the skull. That's why some reports describe the finding as being the head, while others describe it as involving the posterior neck. They're referring to the same general anatomical region. But here's the important point, everyone. The report did not simply call it a bruise. And for clarification, we must point that out. Words matter. A bruise is a medical diagnosis that generally involves bleeding into tissue following an injury, like a sprained ankle. Red discoloration is an observation. It simply describes what the tissue looked like during the examination. It does not automatically explain why it looked that way. Possible explanations could include several things, and we're going to go through those. That could be trauma. That could be decomposition, post-mortem changes, because there will know some time between both exams, pressure after death, or another medical process. An outside medical examiner who was not involved in Nolan's autopsy has said the discoloration could potentially represent blunt force injury. But even that expert did not determine which explanation applies. Neither did Dr. Mitchell. The medical accurate statement is and should be for everyone on the internet, and the area of red discoloration was documented. It is not accurate to say the autopsy proved Nolan had a massive bruise caused by the assault. Responsible reporting requires diagnosing both the findings and the findings that were absent. According to the report, no laceration was identified over the discoloration. This is very important, everyone. Please pay attention. No skull fracture was identified beneath it. No other conclusive deep tissue injuries established a severe physical assault. Severe is the key word here. Those findings matter. At the same time, the absence of a skull fracture does not prove there was not a traumatic event. Not every impact fractures bone. Some injuries leave very little skeletal evidence. The medical findings narrow certain possibilities. They do not answer every question, even though we would love for them to do so. Nolan's body was recovered on July 6th. The independent autopsy occurred on July the 10th, after the state examination was done. By then, decomposition had significantly affected the body. Decomposition can do a lot of things to the body. It can change skin color, alter soft tissue, obscure. Abrasions make injuries very difficult to interpret by other exams. According to the reporting on the independent autopsy, Dr. Mitchell could not reliably determine whether ordinary bruises or abrasions had been present before decomposition advanced. That means we should avoid two very extremes, everyone. We cannot say the report proved blunt force trauma. We also cannot say the body's condition ruled out every possible injury. Both statements go beyond what the medical evidence established as of right now. Another point causing confusion involves the neck itself. The discoloration was found in the posterior or back portion of the head and neck. However, certain anterior neck structures, including parts of the airway that we know were missing and throat, were unavailable during the independent examination because they had been retained during the state's autopsy. Retaining organs or anatomical structures for further examination can be a normal part of the forensics practice. Their absence during the second autopsy does not by itself prove evidence was hidden or destroyed, but it is questionable. However, it did prevent Dr. Mitchell from independently examining those structures. That makes the state's photographs, retained materials, microscopic findings, and final report especially important at this point in the investigation. Essentially, everything hinges on it. Another recent development involves Nolan's reported alcohol consumption. A preliminary Marine Patrol search document reportedly states that witnesses described Nolan as drinking heavily on Horn Island. But here's the key point here. That is a witness account, not a scientific finding. Until toxicology results are released, which are being held, we do not know whether Nolan's measured blood alcohol concentration was high or low, or whether alcohol contributed to his death. We don't know. They won't release it. Even if alcohol is confirmed, it would not by itself explain how Nolan entered the water. But referring to the phone call again, it would seem that Nolan was on the boat, but that still needs to be determined. Separately, the Jackson County District Attorney's Office has confirmed the case will be presented to the grand jury. However, everyone, prosecutors have also stated that presenting deaths like this to a grand jury is standard practice for many non-natural deaths in the county. That announcement should not be interpreted as proof investigators believe a homicide occurred. A grand jury simply reviews evidence to determine whether criminal charges are supported or not. Several important questions remain unanswered, and they need to be answered. Investigators still need to evaluate the original autopsy photographs. That's very important to this case. The retained anterior neck structures, that's very important. Microscopic tissue samples, we need those. Evidence of internal bleeding, airway and lung findings, complete toxicology. The body's recovery position is also just as important the way it was in the water or the tide or weather conditions. Nolan's communications and movements, which we know has been tampered with, deleted messages. His phone wasn't with him when his body was found. Photos and videos of Horn Island are also very important, and boat location information, witness statements, and any inconsistencies that can be found. But this is also important. No single photograph, no single witness, no single area of discoloration answers this case or gives a complete picture of what happened on that tragic day. Only the complete investigative record can do that. And that is what we need. So as always, everybody, we're going to simplify this, okay? Here's what we really know for facts. The independent autopsy documented a large area of red discoloration in the deep tissue at the back of Nolan's head and neck, posterior. Dr. Roger Mitchell could not determine what caused it. Calling it a confirmed bruise goes beyond the report. Calling it proof Nolan was struck is unsupported by the current medical evidence that we have for the public. At the same time, dismissing the findings meaningless would also be premature. It does deserve to be evaluated alongside the state autopsy. Retain anatomical structures, microscopic findings, toxicology, recovery evidence, and a complete investigative file must put everything together. Personally, I believe the public deserves precision and not speculations. This case has generated enormous attention, as it should, and with the attention comes responsibility. Social media has a tendency to turn possibilities into certainties. That's dangerous when discussing someone's death. Every word matters. The evidence should lead the investigation, not assumptions, not rumors, and not online narratives. If future evidence establishes foul play, the responsible person should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And that means everyone. If the evidence ultimately established that there was an accident, Nolan's family deserves a complete explanation that addresses every significant medical finding and every major contradiction. Justice requires patience. Truth requires evidence, and both require investigators to follow the facts wherever they lead. But with historical issues with justice not serving Black Americans, skepticism is reasonable, folks. Let's just be honest about this in this day and age. What do you think? Should independent autopsy reports always be released to the public in a high-profile death investigation? How much weight should the public place on medical findings before the investigation is complete? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. I'm Esco Loudman. Please remember to like, follow, share, and comment. This is Money and Politics Simplified. Stay informed, stay engaged, because when you understand the facts of the Nolan Wells case, my friends, you understand the politics and who it might affect. Have a good day.
Talking money, talking power.